So I saw the new Black Adam movie, and this movie is not good. If I had to describe this movie in one word, that word would be outdated. This movie has been in development hell for more than 10 years since Dwayne Johnson was in Race to Rich Mountain, which came out all the way back in 2009. I don't know if you guys know this, but it's 2022, and it feels like it, especially in the third act. You may be wondering why I'm emphasizing on the third act. That's because this movie is 2 hours and 4 minutes. And for about an hour and 30 minutes of this movie, it has no plot. It's just a bunch of random shit happening stitched together by CGI fight scenes, with The Rock and Aldous Hodge having a tough guy dialogue off, and then at the 1 hour and 30 minute mark, the movie just ends. Then the plot kicks in, which leaves you confused thinking, what have I been watching for the last hour and 30 minutes? And what is going on here? Listen, this movie is directed by Joan Colette Serra, I don't know how to say his name, and 3 screenplay writers, Sarab Nashfarani, Adam Schletti, and Roy Haynes. Rory Haynes, that's the most, name that I'm used to probably seeing on here. This movie has 3 screenwriters for a movie that's been in development for about 15 years. I think there's a writer for every half decade, I guess, to keep up canonically with the times in the DCEU. Whatever that is nowadays, I don't really know. They've always changing it and bringing in new people from WB, so it's kind of hard to really put your finger on where we're going in the DCEU nowadays. This movie is about Teth Adam, who is bestowed with the power of the gods to become the champion of Kahndaq. After using these powers for vengeance, he was imprisoned. Nearly 5,000 years later, Teth has been freed. His unique form of justice, born out of rage, is challenged by modern-day heroes who form the Justice Society of America. Hawkman, Dr. Fate, Adam Smasher, and Cyclone are out to stop him in whatever he may bring. That's pretty much the summary of the movie. Do you see something missing from the overall summary that I just gave you? The plot. The movie, like I said, has no real plot or story. It has reasons for things to happen in the movie, but has no story to piece the reasons together. And I got that from the trailer when I saw it originally, from all the different trailers and TV spots that I saw while anticipating this movie. The trailers never showed any sort of motivation. It doesn't show why Black Adam was even awakened, who the villain is, or Black Adam's motivation. The movie doesn't even have the answer for that either when you watch it, because Black Adam doesn't really have a motivation or a real purpose in this movie. It could have been a JSA movie without even Black Adam in it. It would have been fairly serviceable without Black Adam. The only real character in it with motivation is Sarah Sashi character, which is Adriana Tomez, who is a professor turned fugitive of the state in Kahndaq for some reason in some of her studies in the myth of Black Adam, but they don't really show why or how she became a fugitive. They just start off the movie with her being that. She's on the run, she's being hunted down by the inner gang that is controlling the city, and we don't really get a reason for why really, or really shown why. And I think that's the ultimate problem in this movie. It's a lot of tell, don't show, which I believe is the cardinal sin of filmmaking, being that it is a visual medium. You should be able to show whatever you are trying to convey in the characters or the story visually, but this movie doesn't. It tells you a lot about the history of the oppression of Kahndaq, but it never shows you that oppression that it's talking about. I mean, not through the centuries or now with it supposedly in the strict oppressive grip of Intergang, it doesn't show them doing anything oppressive or restricting the rights of the citizens of Kahndaq. It still has all the landmarks of the ancient people, like the Black Adam champion statue still erect in the middle of the country. It could have shown how the country has been taken over by the champion statue, something of a tourist attraction or something like that, but they didn't. It's still just up with no real purpose for a country whose whole history is consistently under an oppressive regime, one after another. They wouldn't get rid of or turn the symbol of freedom for the people of this country into a soulless piece of property to pull in some profit. The most restrictive thing that they show Intergang doing is enforcing checkpoints. That's it. Not using their force to have people make them weapons, or even using them for their underlying motivations of achieving a crown that will bring hell on earth. It's just all talk, no show. That doesn't make me feel for my characters or the motivations. Speaking of characters, the characters in this movie is bland, boring, and uninspired. It has some of the worst dialogue put to screen in a superhero movie in a long time, but some of the actors are just charismatic enough to poke through their terrible writing and poorly executed motivations that you hang in there just for them. Like I said, Dwayne Johnson, Aldous Hodge are having a terrible tough guy dialogue, but they're talented enough to make it work until they start punching each other or things in general. The same with Dr. Fate. He's written competent enough for Pierce Brosnan to turn the character into a standout gem among the mess of characters. Noah Centinneo's Adam Smasher is just a watered-down Scott Lang Ant-Man from the MCU films. His character is basically a copy to the backstory of his character, him being a legacy Adam Smasher since the original is too old and played by a legend in TV and films in the movie, which I won't spoil. I'll let that cameo be a little fun thing for you guys. But his character and Scott Lang's character from the MCU is basically the same. He's a secondary character. The main person who started the whole entire Adam Smasher or the Ant-Man thing is too old to be doing it, and so he now takes on the mantle of it. And just like Paul Rudd's character, how they utilize him and the jokes they give him are all been done before in the Ant-Man films or MCU collaborative efforts. And Quintessa Swindle Cyclone is nothing. She's just a twirling CGI slow-mo mess. She has nothing going on. She's just thrown into scenes to spin around in slow motion. Literally every one of her action scenes, she's just spinning in slow motion and throwing stuff. It's so weird and awkward that it kind of takes you out of the movie. But the most and worst despicable written character in this movie is Bodhi Sabangui. I don't even know how to say his name. I don't want to know how to say his name. Amon. Oh my god, this character is so bad in some scenes. He almost pulls down The Rock, the Black Adam, down like an anchor of shitty characters. But fortunately for Dwayne, his unwavering charm refuses to let him sink, but he is still attached to him. And God, since he is the person that we're following for the most part, it just becomes excruciating and terrible for everyone involved. I really didn't like this movie that much at all. I thought it was just a bland, boring mess. Like I said, that third act, it commits some of the worst superhero tropes and overbearing, tired tropes that even exist in the realm of superhero movies that I thought we was past a long time ago, bro. When you start doing beams in the sky, y'all remember that era of superhero movies back in 2000, the early 2010s, when they had beams in the sky and then they had to fight random bad guy henchmen that didn't really attach to anything, but if you beat the big thing, they all die and everybody gets to go home safe? That's what this movie does. Towards the third act, this movie just turns into a movie, actually. Like I said, the first hour and 30 minutes of this movie, there is no story, there is no plot. It's just shit happening, and you don't really know why it's happening. No one has any real clear motivations. I mean, they try to give you, like I said, they try to give you reasons for why this is happening, but there's nothing really piecing it together. They just want you to have fun and have I don't even know if they want you to have fun. They just want to get to action scenes. It feels like a movie that was made by The Rock that said, hey, I gotta look badass in this movie, and I gotta do everything badass in this movie. Just make me badass, and I can take you the rest of the way. But the thing is, you have to listen. If you're gonna give me action scenes and no story, you gotta give me very inventive, fun, cool action scenes. You can't give me basic superhero movie action scenes with no story, no plot, no characters to follow that I want to follow, and just expect me to sit there and have fun with it. The action in this movie is overdone superhero shit. It's almost, this movie fight scenes in the superhero wing is almost, it's so laughably bad. It's almost a parody of Dawn of the Seven, from like a parody of the movie that The Boys was talking about, where everybody just stands there and have their stoic dialogue, and then everybody just randomly just throws lasers at each other and fight and beat up each other, and the city behind them is green screened and wrecked, and it's all in this weird washed out weird color. That's what this movie is. It's a parody of superhero movies put out there as if it's an actual superhero movie. And I think that we're past the point where you can't or you shouldn't be putting out superhero movies like this. We asked for a little bit more. If you're gonna give us a story, at least give us a story to follow. It ain't gotta be super good. It ain't gotta be super inventive. It ain't gotta be super thought out or extravagant, but just give me a story to follow while I'm watching this movie. I have no story to follow, so I don't want to follow it. And by the end, when it gets to the third act and they're throwing every superhero trope that's ever superhero troped at me, I'm just over it at this point. I didn't have a story to follow. You just gave me a lot of bombastic explosions and random yelling and weird jokes placed in places. And then towards the end, you give me a battle with a CGI horned man that for some reason DC keeps doing. Like they keep doing that. I know Marvel has its shit that it used to do, and at some point it still does it, where they have characters going and but at least they have characters and stories going that they just undermine for the CGI fight and shit like that. You kind of like, you know what? At least your story was taking us here, so I guess I have to be here, and I guess it's cool. But at least you had a story actually taking us here. So I'm okay with that we arrived here. This movie didn't even arrive. It wasn't taking us nowhere. It was just going, and then it dropped us off. And we were like, what the fuck? This was an Uber? I thought we was friends riding together. What are you talking about? I didn't know this was. I didn't know I had to pay for you to drop this off here. I thought we was all hanging out. No, this is an Uber, bro. And you just been dropped off in the middle of nowhere, and you have to survive it for the next 30 minutes, and that's just bad writing. This movie is just poorly written. Like I said, for an hour and 30 minutes, it's not really a movie going anywhere, but I wasn't hating it. Like, it was, like I said, it has enough visual spectacle but stupidity going on that I think if it would just ended where it ended, I would be like, not a good movie, but you know what, it's whatever. But then they actually put in a story towards the third act after the movie ends, and now we have to fight a whole new bad guy, and now we got a whole other thing happen. I'm like, whoa, you can't do that. Why are we doing this? And it goes so badly and so tropey into early 2000s and 10s, where you can definitely tell this is where this movie was written, and they just haven't really been changing it up that much, that not only do they do the beam in the sky bit, we're over that. You should not be doing that anymore. We don't do beams in the sky bits. Not only did they do the beam in the sky bit, they also did the, yo, Teth, what do you want to do next? Teth is part of my old life. I think I should start a new one. Have a new name. What would it be? Smart credits. And you're like, what? What? No! You did it! You did it! You bastard! You did two of the most cliche superhero tropes that we don't even do anymore! You did the end credits to the name of the guy that it's named after? What the? Oh my god! And you did the beam in the sky? Oh my god! And then you also did the trope of all DC movies, all the weird ones having to end with a monster CGI monster battle, with either a guy with horns, or have godlike powers, and they have to fight him. You did it all! You completely shat the bed in all of it. Dog, you could have left this movie. I could have left this movie rather okay. Rather an average movie. An average superhero movie. But with that last 30 minutes that you put us through, you stopped the movie. No, you stopped the ending of the movie to put us through. Dog, you shot the bed so hard with that. And I can't, no one should forgive you for that. Because that's just bad. If I was to give this movie a rating, after my final thoughts of everything, if I was to give this movie a rating, this movie is it's like a 4 out of 10. It's damn near going towards a 3.5 out of 10. You know what? It's at a 3.5 out of 10. It's a 3.5 out of 10. It was average. It was average. It was coasting on just average, fun, dumb superhero movie. And then that last 30 minutes said, no, Kyle, we're not just the average, fun, dumb superhero movie. You're not? No. We're a stupidly average, fun, dumb superhero movie with everything you've seen that you thought was buried. You thought all these tropes, you thought all these things were buried in the superhero movie graveyard. Hell no. We're Black Adam, baby. We got The Rock with us. We can do whatever we want. We're gonna go far. We're gonna go far beyond the eyes can see, and we're gonna hit every single superhero trope that you wasn't even seeing at first. Yeah, you saw some of it. You saw some of the 90s superhero tropes that maybe you probably haven't seen in a while. But no, we're giving you those ones that you buried, that you killed in the 2010s. We're bringing it back, just like this movie, just like this character. We're gonna awaken them, resurrect them from their tombs. And light is back. We're gonna resurrect them like this light back from their tombs. And we're gonna implant them in this movie. And you're gonna love it. I didn't love it. This movie is a 3.5 out of 10. It's not good. If you want to see it, I recommend you see it. Just as like a fun movie.